Hello, and welcome to La Jolla Home Theater and Automation's Tech Tip. My name is Paul Hager, and today we're going to be going over parental controls, which are actually very important and not necessarily limited to parents. Parental controls can be used for a lot of different things. They're beneficial to both parents and businesses. Being able to monitor either your child or coworkers' interactions on the internet, or their time limits, or the websites that they can visit, and limit those is very important to a lot of people. And that's what we're going to be going over today. So without any further ado, let's jump right into parental controls. Okay? So here we go with parental controls. First thing we're going to want to do is open up our system preferences so we can control the settings for our computer. And now the system preferences look like this little gear box down here. You can also access it by clicking on the very top left of your computer, the Apple logo, and then selecting System Preferences. And when System Preferences opens up in front of you, you'll see this window pane. It'll look very similar to this. You might have 4 rows, maybe not a 5th row. But where we're going to be working today is right here on the 4th row, the System row. And the first 2 items are basically where we're going to be living today. Both users and groups and parental controls are the 2 items that we're working with. Now, we can go into users and groups. That way we can create a new user, and we can set that user to be managed by parental controls. I can also go back and hit show all and go to parental controls right here, and it'll allow me to do the same thing. Create a new user account with parental controls, or convert an existing account to parental controls account. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new user account with parental controls. So let's hit continue. That's going to ask for your computer password anytime you are creating an account. So I'm going to enter our computer password here, which I highly recommend everybody has a computer password. And now right here it's going to ask us to set up our parental controlled account. So we can call it kids if we like, or employee. Because again, parental control accounts are good for both your young ones and for employees. So let's go to account name now. Kids or employee is the account name. And I'm going to leave the password area blank and hit continue. That's going to let me know that I left the password area blank by popping up this little warning. So I'm going to hit OK again. And now it's going to create that account. When it creates that account, it's going to move me into my parental controls window. So I'm going to hit show all over here just to go back. Now if I go to my users and accounts and I select the managed account and I hit open parental controls over here, it'll open up to that window. Now also, if I go back and I just select parental controls over here, it takes me directly to that window. So either users and groups and hitting open parental controls, or just selecting parental controls right here, will take you to the same window. Now what you want to do is select over the account that you'd like to control. You can have multiple accounts in here for multiple children that you have, or if you're a daycare facility, or if this is your place of work, you might have multiple employees over here, each one set up with their own account. So let's go into the kids or employee account, and I'm going to go over the different tabs over here to kind of introduce to you what parental controls can control and limit. The first tab is the apps tab, and the options it gives me is using a simple finder, which provides a simplified view of the computer desktop for young or inexperienced users. So they can't click on or delete stuff that would interfere with the way the computer works, or files that they may need on the computer. You can also limit applications. You can allow App Store apps or not allow App Store apps. So maybe you don't want your young one purchasing apps from the App Store, games or whatnot, so you can turn that off. You can limit the apps. In other words, maybe you don't want them playing chess. Maybe you don't want them on the internet, because this is not an internet communication computer if it's an employee. Depending on what you're using, you can really set your limits to pretty much anything from right here. And you can also allow or not allow the user to modify your dock, so they cannot change the items that are down here. In other words, every day they'll see the same items that are down here, and they won't be able to modify that. We're going to go over to the web tab now, And I'm going to pull you over here because you can definitely control what your kids see on the internet or what your employees are allowed to access on the internet as well. Maybe you don't want to allow Facebook or Twitter. Maybe you just want them focused on LinkedIn if it's your employee. And if it's your kid, maybe you don't want them on adult websites. So you can try to limit that right here. And you can also set, by hitting the customize button, websites that you only want to allow them to visit, and other websites that if they click that, they cannot visit at all. So you can set all that right here. And Apple has even kind of created a allow access to only these websites if you would like to just have access to these websites, and you can add more to this list. So right now Facebook is not on this list, but if I wanted to add it, I can add a bookmark or add a folder. We're going to add a bookmark, and website title is Facebook, and the address, I happen to know it, and most people should. It's www.facebook.com. So now they're going to be able to access Facebook. But since I do not have Twitter on this page, they cannot access Twitter. So that's web. Let's move over to the People tab. This is going to be very important for how your kids or employees communicate with others. Maybe you want to allow them to use Game Center if they're your youngsters, but you don't want them to allow adding Game Center friends. Maybe you don't want to allow either or if they're your employee. If they're working, they shouldn't be playing games. You can also limit mail and chat to just the people that you allow on this address list. And this will pull addresses from your address book. So maybe you don't want them emailing joeschmo@gmail.com. You'd rather have them only emailing Joe, their uncle, @gmail.com. So you can set Joe the uncle over here, and if they try to email anybody named Joe Schmo, of course that email will not go through. And anytime they try to send something that you did not allow, you can ask to send permission requests to this email address to you or to another contact, so that way if they do need to send an email out, let's say it's for school and it's one of your youngsters and the teacher that they're sending to is not on this authorized list, it'll send you an email alerting you that they would like to send an email to that particular person. And it's up to you as the manager of the parental controlled account to take a look at that email and the address that they're sending it to and verify that it is a safe address that your child is communicating with. Probably don't want to turn this off for businesses though. These, we want to leave them unchecked. Time limits is going to be the next tab, and this is great. So you can limit during the weekday, they can only use it for maybe 3 hours a day. Maybe you want to only allow 1 hour a day. And on the weekend, you don't want to let them use it for the whole weekend, a total of more than 5 hours. That means that they can only spend 5 hours from Saturday to Sunday on the computer. So they won't spend hours and hours and hours wasting the day away when they should be doing their homework, if that's the case. Also, you can limit the use on the computer if it's an office and maybe you want everybody out by 5 p.m. You can limit the use, for example, school days, Sunday through Thursday. So at 5 p.m. until 8 a.m., the computers will not allow anybody to access them. So you can set those right here for weekdays and of course on the weekends. And weekends are Friday, Saturdays for Apple, and the weekdays are Sunday through Thursday, because those are weeknights. The next day would be school or work. And then finally on the other tab over here, we have disable use of dictation, hide profanity, limit printer administration, limit CD burning, and disable changing the password. Now all of these are great features that Apple has. First off, dictation, being able to communicate to your computer and dictate what you want your computer to type for you. However, that might not be the greatest thing for students or employees in a work environment, when you'd prefer that they were typing with their hands to make sure that they're not making mistakes verbally by the computer maybe hearing the wrong word and typing the wrong word. Profanity. Who needs profanity in a dictionary at the workplace or for a young one? Okay. Next one, printer administration. You want to limit that so that way they cannot change the printer settings or add another printer, or especially remove printers if they're your youngsters in the house. and also employees. Because if they can't print something, they can't work. So we want to prevent that from happening, so we'll limit the ability to change anything with printers after it's been set up. We might want to limit CD and DVD burning. That's a choice of yours you can make for yourself. If it's the workplace, they probably don't need to burn CDs or DVDs, and we don't want to give them the option to do that. If they don't have the option, they won't think about doing it. Last but not least, we have disabled changing the password over here. By changing the password, it will prevent the parental controlled account user, your young one or your employee, it'll prevent them from changing that password, meaning you'll always be able to get in with the original password that you set, and they cannot change that, in other words, blocking you out of that account. And that pretty much is parental controls for the computer. There is also parental controls for your iPhone, but it's not called parental controls, it's actually called restrictions. And they're a little bit different, but very similar in a lot of ways. We'd be happy to show you parental controls for your iPhone or your computer. We do have an iPhone, iPad class coming up very shortly, and that's a pretty popular class here with La Jolla Home Theater, where we teach you everything about the iPhone and iPad that you would need to know. So for that workshop, for many other workshops, and a lot of other training that we offer here, feel free to give us a call, hop on our website, shoot us an email, or get in touch with us any way you can. We're happy to help. This is Paul Hager with La Jolla Home Theater, and we just went over parental controls today. So I had a good time, and I thank everybody for joining us today. Have a great day.